Thank you, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good afternoon to all listening this broadcast via whatever means. Since the removal of the requirement for private security for home quarantine, we have seen a significant increase in the number of persons applying for this option. The removal of the requirement for private security is another easing of the restrictions that were imposed previously to control the spread of the virus. The quarantine period for fully vaccinated persons is 4 days. You will be tested on day 4, and your results should be returned within 24 hours. There may be some delay, however, if day 4 falls on a Sunday, as the lab is usually closed on Sundays. Persons in quarantine shall only be released from quarantine upon receiving a negative RT-PCR test. Quarantine is a public health measure used to separate and restrict the movement of persons who may have been exposed to a communicable disease, such as COVID-19, or travel from a country that is considered a hotspot for the virus to see if they will eventually become ill. In addition to incoming travelers quarantining at home, there are a number of persons without a travel history, but who may have had contact with a person who is positive with the coronavirus, being placed in quarantine at home by the health authorities. The same conditions would apply to both groups of persons. You are expected to remain at the approved residence and avoid physical contact with other persons. You are permitted to have food or other supplies delivered to the residence, but again, these deliveries should be contactless. Persons who are in quarantine and become ill or otherwise wish to seek medical attention, you should either contact your personal physician via phone or call 311 or 911 for emergency medical assistance. Under no circumstance should you use the regular public transportation to seek medical assistance. For incoming travelers, on day 4 of your quarantine, you will be required to travel to the Bastia Health Center or other testing site via travel-approved taxis only, or you may drive yourself if you have a vehicle for the purpose of doing your exit tests. Other persons who are in quarantine will be visited at their residence by the mobile testing team to be sampled. Given the prevailing situation with new cases in the Federation, the police have adopted a zero tolerance for breaches of quarantine conditions. Section 7 of the Quarantine Act provides the following. Any person who refuses or willfully omits to do any act which he or she is required to do by this act, or refuses or willfully omits to carry out any lawful order, instruction, or condition made, given, or imposed by any officer commits an offense and shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $5,500 or to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or to both such fine and imprisonment. We have used this piece of legislation in the past with respect to persons who have breached their quarantine, and we are prepared to use it again should person breach any of the conditions of their quarantine. So again, we ask persons for their fullest cooperation in complying with all the conditions of their quarantine. Remain at home, do not have visitors at your home, do not come in contact with any person who is not in quarantine at the home, and always, when you're out, follow all the protocols. Wear your mask and maintain your social distance. Thank you.
Thank you, Supt.